friends. I have a really, really cool band for you today. I'm very happy that they responded. Actually, Chris from the band Outblinker responded to my profile questions. Let's check them briefly. This is Outblinker. And I got to know them, because they sent me their music and I really, really like it. So I put them, here. They are also in my Spotify playlist. So if you want to be in there, you know the drill. Use the link in the description. But now on with a band. The band here. So Outblinker is currently a quartet, musicians from Glasgow. You will hear this very cool accent. I really like this accent. I learned more the American English, so my English is more like that, yeah, right. But yeah, this is the English from Glasgow, and anyway, I really like it. Anyway, he will tell you all about it. So let's start with the first question, and the first question is, of course, can you please introduce yourself? Who are you, and what kind of music do you do? And here is the answer from Chris.
Hi Tobias and hi Shellshocked Radio. I'm Chris from the band Outblinker, based in Glasgow in Scotland. Thanks for asking us to do this. Thank you for the support that you've shown for our music recently. What do we sound like? We've changed sounds a little bit. So we started as quite a psychedelic krautrock band. We always liked guitars and we always wanted the band to be a live rock band, not just some guys behind a computer. So I think now we're a bit more unusual, a bit more eclectic, electronic, little bits of Depeche Mode, but also a lot of post-hardcore guitar parts and krautrock drumming. We've been really lucky. We've had some great drummers in the band. So yeah, it's an unusual sound. You're probably better at having an answer for this than me.
Your artist name is Outblinker. How did you come up with this? What was the reasoning behind this, well, rather unusual name? But it's a good name because, as you know, in my profile segment, sometimes I already talked with bands who have not so very memorable names. So, where does the name Outblinker come from?
Our band name, yeah, it's unusual. It doesn't actually mean anything. It's not a real word. When we were first starting the adventure of trying this project, we booked rehearsal studios and we just needed a name to book the rehearsal studios. So we came up with Uitblinker or Uitblinker. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's Dutch. And I think it means man of the match or like VIP, most important person. And we thought that was kind of funny. Um, and then when we decided we were going to need a real name because this was a real band, we just, we were thinking about how hard it can be to find some bands on the internet, bands I really like, The Body, like, how do you find that on the internet? So, yeah, we decided, well, if we make up a word, it'll be easy to find. So we went for SEO, search engine optimization, and we changed the UIT to OUT, so it was more anglified. And it was kind of deliberate because we didn't know what the music would be like. We didn't want to have a very gothic name or a very political name because it was an adventure. We could have picked a really gothic name and then ended up sounding like Erasure, or we could have picked a funny name and ended up sounding like, I don't know, black metal. So we didn't know where it was going to end up. So having a neutral name was good. It made us open minded when we were trying out new material.
Which bands and artists are your inspiration, my dear Chris?
The bands that are our inspiration, I mean, I mentioned at least one there, Depeche Mode, obviously Neue Kraftwerk and old school krautrock bands were a big influence, especially on a couple of the members. But for me, I like things a bit more eclectic. I like a lot of post-hardcore. Love Fugazi. I love I like that the Drive-In. I like a lot of noise rock, like Jesus Lizard and things like that. So we wanted to do an electronic project, but have loads of live elements, not just be guys behind a computer. Lots of guitar and lots of saturation. So yeah, there's a few bands. I mean, Trans Am, the American band, have done a lot of stuff that I like. Uh, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear here, but Fuck Buttons, who one of them was a producer that we worked with, and he's now in Blank Mass. When I was younger, I really liked Nine Inch Nails. Um, yeah, those are pretty big inspirations. I mean, you come from Scotland, you can't ignore Mogwai. Although we wanted to be a bit, I think, a bit darker than that. Um, and I really love a couple of acts from down south. One in particular is called Vessel, Bessel, and they're from Bristol. There's a really good scene for electronic music in Bristol, of course, Portishead and Invada Records and things. But I think Vessel is my favorite to come from there in a while. So yeah, we get a lot of ideas from them as well. The last thing I would say is when we've been traveling in Europe, because we toured in Europe more probably than the UK. It was just our sound was more popular there, and we played with bands like La Colonie de Vacances, which is a really amazing project, like a combination of four other bands. Started as a, I think it started as a kind of silly idea that became one of the most amazing things I've ever seen, where the four bands are around the audience and they rehearse the music so that it travels around your head as you're in. It's just incredible, and we supported them on tour, and I think they're so good. They're so original, but they're so good that it made us raise our level every time. You know, we need to get better because these guys are just so high that we need to get better. It's crazy to me that this band, La Colonie de Vacances, isn't famous. You can also hear some of their individual bands. Marvin, Electric, Pneu, Papier Tigre, and these bands combined to make this project, and it's a big inspiration for all of us in the band.
How did you meet your band, your current band members, and yeah, how did you meet up? How did this happen? Um, because knowing from myself, it's not easy to find the right people to make the cool, right music with. So, what was your journey here?
Read that one. Um, so how did the band members meet? Well, two of us, David and I, were in a band called Hey Enemy, kind of noise rock, angular guitar band. And when that band ended, David and I wanted to keep writing stuff with a bit more of an electronic vibe. And we had a bunch of ideas, but we didn't know what to do with them. And we were friends with two brothers, Jason and Graham Costello, who performed as a duo called Young Philadelphia. Um, Brilliant at what they do, just guitar and drums. Graham, in particular, as a drummer, he's over here. He's seen as being one of the best drummers in the whole country. He's amazing. And so, those great guys, we got together with them, started working on some ideas. We went to record a demo with an Italian producer over here called Luigi Pasquini, and we all got on. The demo was it was good. We all got on so well though, and Luigi had so many ideas for the music that eventually we just said, "Hey man, do you want to join the band?" And so Luigi joined the band, and that was kind of the proper beginning of it. That's when we started to sound different, not just a krautrock band. And since then, yeah, we had because all the members of the band have, Luigi owns a studio. Graham is a jazz musician who plays for loads of different projects. It was very difficult to keep one permanent lineup. So it was usually myself and David, and then we would tour with different people, play with different people. So yeah, we've had various other people involved in the band. Fraser McPhail was the most recent drummer, brilliant guy. He's in a metal band called Coffin Mulch as well. But yeah, it's always changing. One of the cool things about it is that all the people in the band, and even our tour drivers, our producer, we've got a very close group of friends because of the band. We'll go for dinner, and yeah, it's nice. It's like a kind of not always perfect, but it's like a bit of a family atmosphere. So yeah, and it means there's lots of very varied ideas in the band, which I think makes the music more diverse.
Which current bands and artists are you listening to?
Which bands we listen to just now? I can only answer for myself, so I'll do that. Um, I really like some of the Irish music that's coming out at the moment. I don't mean folk music typically, but bands like Lancome, who do a kind of very modern, doomy version of folk, like very dark. Maybe it sounds maybe like a mixture of Godspeed You Black Emperor and Neurosis with classic folk music. It's beautiful, and they have an offshoot project called Oxen, OXN, that's also very very good. So that stuff I really enjoy. I really like the solo project of Beth Gibbons, the singer from Portishead. That's excellent. And apart from that, I've been going back and listening to a lot of really good, but maybe more obscure noise rock, like Distorted Pony. I love the Jesus Lizard. I think it's maybe the best band ever. So I really enjoy going back and listening to that as well.
Where can we see live in the upcoming months?
This year, I'm not really sure what shows we'll be doing. We did a lot of touring, go like further back a few years ago, and then we had some health problems in the band, partly because of touring, partly because of our jobs back here, difficult jobs, and just fatigue. And then of course COVID happened when we were just about to do like a really big European tour. So touring has been less common for us, and right now the guys who were in the live version of the band, they're doing other projects. So Fraser, the drummer, he's basically full time with his metal band Coffin Mulch now. Graham is a full time jazz musician. So I think if we're going to tour, we'll probably have to kind of speak to more of our friends in the music scene and put together a different arrangement of musicians to do that. So, I mean, maybe at the end of the year, something's possible, but no guarantees at this point. However, that does mean that the time that we're here, we have a lot of stuff recorded. So we're going to try and focus on continuing to be a bit productive with that time that we're not traveling.
With whom would you like to share the stage? And you can freely choose, dead or alive. Who would you like to play with? Opening with, or be on stage with? Who would it be?
It's a really good question. Who would we like to share the stage with? On one hand, who do I think would be a very good productive person or group to share the stage with? I mean, who doesn't want to play with Depeche Mode? You know, um, there's a kind of suicidal part of me wants to play a show with Rammstein. Um, it could be a terrible idea, but I think it'd be a lot of fun. In terms of the bands I like and have enjoyed playing with, the La Colonie de Vacances, we mentioned that group with the four stages. That was great because we would play in big venues, but we would play in a small room. So the audience would come in, and there'd be a stage, and we would be playing on the stage like a normal show. But then when we finished, the audience, which by then was much bigger, would go into the main room for the main show with that band. And that was a really unusual way to do a concert, but it was actually really, really interesting. So yeah, I would like to do that again. That was a really refreshing and enjoyable way to play shows. Uh, if I was to go back through fantasy past of bands, um, yeah, somebody is a bit crazy on stage. Somebody that's pretty unpredictable. I kind of like that. I mean, I don't like having to clean up the mess at the end, but I definitely like the idea of bands like Jesus Lizard, bands, some of the crazy kind of 90s bands that were yeah, just very very lively. and every night was a little bit of you held your breath because you didn't know what was going to happen.
Can you share any any funny stories about in the recording studio or on the road or live on stage? Some funny mishaps you want to share with the audience.
So you've asked the question about funny stories, and honestly, I think this band could definitely write a book on these. We have a lot of really ridiculous stories, good luck, bad luck, weird situations. So many, honestly, especially because one of the Luigi in the band is famous for getting himself into crazy situations, just weird, funny stuff. So like a nice memory, we recorded our EP. We've got an EP called The Remains of Walter Peck, where we worked with Blank Mass. But to do this EP, we travelled the way up to the north of Scotland. Then we got on a ferry to an island. Then we got on a little boat to an even smaller island. And on this island, there was a church that had been converted into a music studio by this eccentric musician from the 1980s. And it was very, very far away. There's no police in the island, just a crazy place with like one store that's open for a few hours. And so we recorded in this place, and it was amazing. You couldn't help but like lose yourself in this ancient sort of sense of being away from civilization a bit. On the island, just along the water from where we were recording, there was a series of very old buildings, and we would walk down there and have some food and maybe a smoke, and get our creative juices working. Basically, one of the buildings that was there, which is in very good condition, is older than the pyramids, and that was just wow, like amazing. You just walk down there when you're struggling for inspiration. You've been trying a guitar part for 4 hours, and you're like, I want to walk to a building that's older than the pyramids. I want to look out at the water. And this time of year that we were there, you would have like whales, like killer whales going past. I mean, it's just beautiful. So the memories on that island were great. Luigi at that time, he had a little keyboard thing on his phone, and he would we would go around the island to eat our food, and there were all these seals in the water, and they would be curious about us, so they would come up, and Luigi would change the settings on his phone and play little tunes, and we found a setting on the phone that the seals kind of enjoyed, and he would stand and play music to these seals, and they would be swimming up to us and kind of looking confused but kind of interested in us. So there was a lot of this kind of thing. He tried that with donkeys in France, and that didn't work as well. Uh, One other memory, I mean, I remember we played some very remote shows in France. We played up in the mountains where we had to load the van. You could hear wolves in the field next to the van. But we did this one show in this tiny little village. It had a very, very good venue, like a very cool scene where people would drive for hours to go to these concerts. And we were playing the show, and somebody was taking photos of the concert. And when we saw the photos after the show, there were cows looking in the window at the back of the venue. It's a pretty good audience. I've had worse audiences than those cows, honestly.
What can we expect in regards to videos and music from you in the following months?
Yeah, and for our last question, what are our plans for the future? So we just released our debut album, which is crazy to say because our debut album was meant to come out a long time ago. But as I say, we had a lot of problems, some illness, probably like COVID destroyed the plan, and then we had to change the live version of the band because people couldn't tour. So it was very, very exciting for us to get the record out. It's almost like an exorcism where it's been in your mind this whole time. So that's out. But also because that took so long, we spent a long time writing some other music, and we recorded a lot of songs actually. Slightly different, like a little bit, some of them darker, some of them more pop, some of them more electro. A lot of the ideas were done during lockdown, and we didn't have a live drum kit, so we were using a lot of electronic drums. So I think we're going to try and finish these songs and slowly release them, maybe closer to the end of the year. and they'll have a different sound to them. I think, yeah, I like that. Like, I like the fact that a lot of these, there's a constant sense of progression in what we're doing, and we don't always know where we're going. We hear something, it feels good, and we're following it. So yeah, we're going to try and keep doing that. I don't know which members of the band will be doing that. I don't know what the live situation will be, but yeah, there's a lot more music to finish, and there's a lot more music to release. So yeah, thanks for your support. Thanks for watching this. I hope it was okay. Yeah, I hope to speak to you again in the future. All the best.